Okay.
Okay.
We're going.
We're going.
Hi. Welcome to the first episode of B-Movie Bash.
Yeah.
I'm Shannon.
I'm Alyssa.
And we are starting this podcast to bash some B-movies.
Yeah, fuck yeah. But they're not, I mean, I guess not all of them are going to be B-movies. I've got some on my list that are like, I mean, I wouldn't call them A-movies, but they've got, they've got some pretty well-known actors and actresses in them.
Right. But just like horror, like bad movies?
Yeah, just bad movies.
Cheesy, bad in general.
Ones that, like, had potential and then just, like,
did not live up to that.
Yeah, like, so that's especially what this first one is. I mean, like, the whole premise of it, I'm like, oh man, that would be a great fucking movie.
I'm so excited.
It's fucking not. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I guess the premise of this podcast was that Alyssa has always talked about wanting to start a YouTube channel where she just talks about mostly bad horror movies, because you love horror movies.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And I've listened to some other podcasts where there's two people, and one person will tell the other a story, and they get to react in, like, live in time. So I thought that would be a really cool concept for a podcast.
Because I fucking tell her about movies anyway, so why not, put it online for other people to listen. So,
it's entertaining.
Yeah. Sometimes I just ramble. This is thanks to my ADD. So
it's mostly entertaining. It's fine. But yeah, so we're gonna go over a lovely horror. It's a horror movie, right?
This one, it's kind of more of like a thriller.
Okay.
But I suppose it was in the horror movie category originally when I watched it on Netflix.
Okay.
No longer on Netflix. I had to go find it on Amazon, but
Nice.
So I didn't have to rent it, if that means anything.
Yeah, and then we're gonna play games on some of the episodes, guess that ending, or what were some of the other ones we talked about? I can't remember now, but we'll come up with something exciting.
We'll come up with some fun ones, yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, should we get started?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's fucking do it.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, so first of all, the movie I'm going to be telling you about today is called Emelie.
Okay.
And it is about a family who gets a babysitter they weren't expecting.
Okay.
And chaos kind of happens throughout the night.
Exciting.
So, it starts off with this girl walking down the street, and she is talking on the phone to her friend Maggie. And Maggie is the, you know what, I don't ever think I found out their last names of the family, but she is the family she's going to go babysit for. Maggie's their normal babysitter, but ever since she got her braces off, she's too hot now and doesn't want to babysit.
Right.
And she hangs out with college boys.
Hot girl shit,
Yeah,
sure.
hot girl shit, yeah. So she asked her friend Anna to babysit for the family for her. And Anna, who has a Facebook page about babysitting, was like, yeah, let's do it. I'll babysit for you, okay? But I'm pretty sure she's, agreeing to this on the phone with Maggie, oh, what, you can't babysit? Yeah, sure, I'll babysit for this family for you, okay?
Oh, okay.
So as she's, agreeing with this, okay, a car pulls up, and this lady goes, oh, hi, are you Anna? And she's like, yeah, I am. And then this guy walks up out of nowhere. They're in, the fucking middle of, a city park. Okay?
Stranger danger, man.
Stranger danger, right? Kidnaps her. Puts her in the trunk.
Whoa.
Puts her in the backseat. And
Wait.
There were people around. And nobody does shit. They all so conveniently walk off the screen as this is happening.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I was not prepared for that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they just fucking kidnap her. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah. So, the first time I watched it, I thought this was, planned for a while that she was going to be babysitting. But from my understanding, from the context of the rest of the movie, the second time I watched it, it was kind of last minute that Maggie just bailed.
Yeah.
So Anna, her friend, she was basically like, oh, hey, Anna, can you babysit for me? And Anna was like, yeah, sure. Oh, who are these people pulling up? Yeah, my name's Anna. Oh, I'm getting kidnapped. Okay.
Okay.
So that's it, right?
Can I interject really quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is this an American film?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Well, as far as I'm aware, it could be Canadian, but, I mean, nobody talks
But it's
with an accent.
it's not Japanese.
It's not Japanese,
okay.
No. It's English. So then, the dad of the girl the dad of the family goes to go pick up the girl who's supposed to be babysitting for him, right? And I always thought that was really weird. When I was a kid, I never got rides from the parents to go over and babysit. My parents would go and drop me off.
Yeah,
so,
usually, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, more often than not, I was babysitting for that monster down the street from us.
Oh.
And yes, that one. And with her, well, I mean, she wasn't the monster. Mom wasn't the monster, but the older sister was the monster. But I was babysitting for them, and so I would just walk down the street to babysit.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But anyway, so he goes to go pick her up, and she's sitting on her front porch, right? And yells, "Bye, Mom," gets in the car, and he starts to drive away. And the mom is, like, suspiciously looking out the window. And I'm like, this is weird. Why anyway.
Aren't you expecting, like, someone to come pick your daughter up?
Right?
Like, why are you being weird?
But I don't know. It was just really weird to me. So, anyway. So there's a very awkward car ride where the dad is not hitting on the babysitter, but
not
given these weird vibes kind of anyway, and she's kind of like eyeing him up and down but like it's weird. So then she they're in the car, they're kind of talking about how, oh yeah, we heard that you babysat for this other family, and she's like, yeah, and he's like, well, what were the girls' names again? Lila and something. I don't remember what the kids' names were.
Okay. Yeah.
And she goes, I just called them Sleepy and Grumpy, and he goes, Sleepy and Grumpy, that's a good one. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Right? Because obviously you don't know your like neighbor's kids,
right?
Like, so he was like, yeah, but it says that you have a Facebook page and everything, and she was like, oh yeah, did you look at my Facebook page? And he was like, no, I don't really do the computer stuff. I don't really get on the computer at all. And I think this movie's like from 2008 or something, 2009. Okay. Anyway, the shirt she's wearing is very 2009. So,
makes sense.
And so there's just really awkward car ride home. It flashes over to the family getting ready. The mom's getting ready for date night. Apparently it's their like 13th anniversary or something.
Oh, 13.
You know, yeah.
Look out.
Right. And so they're getting ready and stuff. And the weirdest fucking thing to me was that she was putting her lipstick on, but she was doing that whole thing where you take the brush and you like dab it on your lipstick, like tube, and then you put it on your lips. But she like never put any lipstick on her lips, like ever. So it was like, why the fuck are you doing this? Like, just put the lipstick on, you know? And so she effectively leaves the house with no lipstick. And anyway, cool. the daughter is, so they've got 3 kids. They've got their 11-year-old son, their 9-year-old daughter, and then their 4-year-old son, right? Mm-hmm. And Jacob, Sally, and Christopher. And Jacob is in the rebellious stages of life, you know?
As they are, yeah.
And is just wanting to get into trouble all the time, right?
Yeah.
So he's beating the shit out of his little brother like they do.
Mm-hmm.
And the mom gets mad at him and confiscates his I have no idea his device, okay? But I play games, okay?
Yeah.
I don't know what this device is. It's some kind of, like, it's so weird. I can't even...
Okay.
There was an old Sega handheld game that really reminds me of it. It's not a Game Boy. It's the weirdest. Like, they had to have made it for this movie.
Yeah, there were like no copyright infringement whatsoever.
Pretty sure. Like, I have no fucking clue what this little device is, right? So, so she takes that away. He's like a really pretty, like, shitty brother kind of a thing. I'm like, why is this kid not in therapy? He really probably should be in therapy. Like,
because it was 2008.
This is true, but he's like meaner than 11-year-olds I know. But I mean, then again, I guess when I babysat, the kids weren't complete monsters, you know.
Yeah.
Kids are always worse with their parents, I guess, right? So then, but everything that comes out of their mouth, like, this whole time, all of the writing is so awkward. Like, every conversation they have is just like the worst conversation in the world. It's so stiff and awkward. Like, when she's talking to the babysitter, it kind of makes sense if it's a little awkward because you don't know who this person is, you know. And it's the first time that they are, you know, meeting your kids, and you...
Yeah, come into my house, stranger, and watch my children.
Right?
Cool.
So, yeah, so she's, like, telling them, like, oh, yeah, they can have snacks. And she's like, yeah, for their snacks, they can have cookies or chips. And I'm like, why are you letting them have snacks that late at night of cookies and chips? Like,
yeah, those are, like, treats.
Those are treats. Yeah, those, I don't know, but whatever. So that is their thing. And she starts asking questions like, oh, do they have any food allergies, any sensitivities? And I'm like, oh, hey, that's a pretty good babysitter question, you know? And she goes, no, don't worry about any of that. And she's like, okay, thanks. Then they're like, okay, well, it's time to go. We're going to go. So they go to leave, right? The parents leave. Oh, but the dad is awkwardly flirting with her again, right? But like also kind of not, because they're just kind of talking, and he goes, make sure they don't go in the garage. And she's like, what's in the garage? And he goes, this super awesome car that I refurbished. He was talking so fast I couldn't even hear what it was, right?
Okay.
And so she was like, oh, really? And he goes, yeah, and just starts talking about his car for a second. And the mom is like staring daggers at him of these like suspicious eyes, you know, like the look you give your husband when you think that he's cheating on you kind of a look.
Yeah.
And so I was like, is that going to be a major plot in this movie? Like, is that what's going to happen? You know, like, anyway, so they leave. And, okay, so they leave and they start hanging out a little bit. She's, you know, just talking to him. They're playing dress up and stuff. And she starts telling him this weird story about, you know what's so great about playing pretend is that you can be anything that you want to be. You don't even have to be a boy or a girl or a human or anything. You can be whatever you want. And so you're like, okay, I mean, that's kind of fun. Sure. Yeah, that's whatever. And so she gets the kids to play dress up, and they're all of these different things. And they're like, well, what are you going to be? And she's like, I'm already playing pretend. And you're like, no, sus, you know? And so, so you're like, okay, yeah, that's real creepy right there. But so the youngest boy, the 4-year-old, goes and takes one of the mom's really nice pillowcases and cuts it up so that he can like put it on as like an overtop for a dinosaur, right? And so the older sister's like, you're not supposed to do that. That's not okay. And the babysitter's like, leave him alone. He's fine. And so the whole time I'm like, what?
You're in charge.
You're in charge. Like, you should not be allowing this, right? And she keeps stealing their stuff. Like, they're holding on to something, and she keeps taking it away from them. And it's just really weird. Like, random things. Like, she takes the crown off the little girl's head, or she just, like, takes the comic book out of the 11-year-old's hand and stuff. Like, and just,
okay. Yeah,
so then it keeps flashing back and forth between what's happening at the house and then what's happening at the parents at dinner. And so the parents are at dinner, which I thought was really weird because they drove there, and then they got a taxi home later at the end of the night because they're too drunk. But I'm just like, but they left their car. So
yeah.
I mean, whatever. Anyway, so they drive there, and they get to the restaurant, and everything's really awkward for a little while, you know? Like, they're just like, yeah, so how was work? How was your day? And I'm like, this is like your 13th wedding anniversary. What's going on with you guys, right? But obviously the wife is like super sus of the husband and stuff, but she's like acting like a bitch about things. Like, she just keeps saying these like bitchy things, and I'm like, okay, I think I know why.
Yeah.
But
okay. But still.
And then it flashes back to the babysitter, and they are doing the whole pretend thing again and stuff. And she's like, well, I'm a photographer. Like, totally tries to save it, pulls out a camera and starts taking pictures of them. So she tells the oldest boy, because he finally comes down to play dress up, and he's wearing his dad's old racing uniform, which they never at any time indicate that he was a race car driver until this moment.
Yeah, he just has a nice car in the garage.
Okay. Right? And, which, I mean, like, that's fine. It doesn't have to be like, oh, by the way, my name's so-and-so. I used to be a race car driver. Yeah. That's fine, you know? So I guess this was an okay-ish way. Anyway, so the son comes down in the race car uniform with one of the dad's trophies, right? And so she was like, yeah, you two get together and take a picture. And so she's talking to the 11-year-old and the 9-year-old. And he's like, okay, now pick up the trophy like you're going to hit her over the head with it. And you're like, what the fuck, right? And the little girl's like smiling and stuff. And she's like, stop smiling. Stop smiling. Stop smiling and stuff. And so then, yeah, and she's just like taking pictures of these kids being fucking weirdos, right? And then they decide to play hide and go seek. And tells them to count down from 100, right? How long is 100 seconds?
That's a minute and a half.
Yeah, a minute and a half.
That's a long time.
That's a long time, but not long enough to go sneak around their house, is it?
Oh, yeah, probably not.
Yeah, probably not, right? So the son's down there, and I mean, I guess he's like 99, 98, 97, 96. Like, so it's not like full seconds. Like, he's not doing the best at counting, but like, you know, always, still, like, that's, anyway. So the babysitter goes and starts snooping around the house and stuff, goes into the garage, and is, like, weirdly looking at an axe, and, just, like, a little hand axe and everything, and I'm like, okay, that's even more sus, you know?
Yeah.
And she steals a screwdriver, goes upstairs, I don't know why she knew to steal a screwdriver, but she goes upstairs to the parents' room, and the kid's still counting, and she finds this lockbox in their closet and pops it open. They never show you what's inside the lockbox, but it's obviously a gun box, right? Like, okay. That's, you know. But we're supposed to assume she finds this videotape in there too, okay? Because you don't see it. You don't see her taking this out of the box, right?
Okay.
Because I'm like, if she doesn't find it in the box, where does she find this videotape that she shows them later? Okay?
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's that.
Forewarning,
she keeps it
okay.
for later, yeah. And then the 11-year-old goes up and starts like looking around for everybody, right? Which he was being kind of a cute older brother because the 4-year-old was literally sitting there like against a wall with his hands over his eyes, and he keeps walking past him like, man, where are these guys? Oh, they're so hard to find. And I was like, hey, that's kind of cute, right? And once in a while he does okay-ish big brother things, you know, like he's not a complete monster.
Right.
And so he finds the babysitter, and well, because like the door is partially open, and he peeks inside and then freaks out and like slams himself up against the wall, like, oh my gosh. And the babysitter's like, you found me, come in here. And she goes in, it's at the bathroom, she's sitting on the toilet. Yeah, like hands down, sitting on the toilet, right? And is like, can you find me a new tampon?
What?
And he's like, okay. And
the
like
11-year-old?
The 11-year-old. She's asking the 11-year-old.
How old is she supposed to be?
She's gotta be like, they're suspecting her to be at least 15, 16,
yeah,
right? Because I'm like, but if you're 16, you're driving yourself.
Yeah.
You know?
Well,
so
I mean, maybe.
But more often than not, as a 16-year-old, you'd be driving yourself over to go babysit, right? Then again, this is 2008 and nobody had a smartphone. So, like,
true.
Maybe if it's a house I didn't know, like, and I didn't have the address for it, I don't know. Anyway, but she's supposed to be around that age, but she's actually like in her 20s. She's got to be anyway. She's Princess
like
Aurora
the actress
from Once Upon a Time. I don't know if you know that.
Oh
one,
yeah,
but
no.
I hated her. And so she is like asking him for a tampon, and he's like, okay, and pulls this one thing out. It's not a tampon, and so she tells him to look for again, and then finds one, and they're like in a pack of different colors, and he's like, which color? And she's like, you pick. And I'm like,
that's not flirty. That's
so
weird.
Yeah. And so he picks one out for her, gives it to her, and then she leaves the bathroom without washing her hands and stuff. And I was like,
oh, you nasty?
You nasty. So he freaks out for half a second, runs into his bedroom, grabs his little walkie-talkie and calls his friend, right? And the friend is like, what's up, man? And he's like, I think I just saw my first China hole. And I'm like fucking dying because he says China hole.
I have never heard that in my life.
Right? Not a China hole.
What?
And I'm like, why would an 11-year-old know China hole?
Yeah.
Like,
wow.
I'm 29 years old. I didn't know it was called a China hole.
I mean, but is it though?
But is it though?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. And
it will be now.
It will be now. And so then a little bit later on, she's letting them paint on the walls, like actively paint on the walls. And the 11-year-old has written Anna really big on the wall. And the other kids are drawing and stuff. And the 9-year-old girl just has a story for everything. She has, oh yeah, so this right here is the queen, and this is the princess, and this is the prince, about everything, every little thing she touches. She does that with the cookies. She does that with her juice. She does that with like everything she touches, which is fine, you know. Yeah. So like, but you just constantly hear her in the background talking about this king and queen and princess, or the daddy and the mom and stuff. You know, like it's a whatever thing. So they're painting on the walls, and the one kid is very much like has his paintbrush pretending to paint on the wall, just like constantly, just with this paintbrush that has no paint on it, painting on the wall over and over and over again as she's like talking to Christopher, the 4-year-old, just like, oh, what are you painting? Oh, that's so nice. Oh, that's so fun, and blah blah blah, like getting like super close to him. So the 11-year-old's getting kind of jealous now because she was like hitting on him this whole time,
right? And
so he was like, hey, do you want to watch me feed my snake? Because apparently he has a snake in his room.
That's pretty cool,
right? So she was like, yeah, sure. And so he goes and gets a frozen mouse out of the freezer, pops it in the microwave, and then goes to go put it. Yeah.
Oh.
I know, right? Well, because apparently snake like their food warm. So he goes to go give it to the python, and she goes, that's a stupid idea. Python like their live prey, you know. And she pulls out the 9-year-old's hamster.
Oh.
Yeah. And so they're fighting over it for a second because the 9-year-old's like, that's my hamster. Put Admiral Wubbles down. And which Admiral Wubbles is an adorable name for a hamster, you know.
Was that in the movie?
It was in the movie. That's
Ooh,
his name.
canon. I like it.
And so she's like getting upset and everything. And the 11-year-old is like, no, it's fine. It's fine. Because I don't think he actually thinks she's going to go through with it, right?
Right.
And so they drop the hamster ball. And they're kind of arguing for half a second. Well, the 4-year-old picks it up and dumps the hamster in the cage.
Oh, no.
And so the babysitter is just like, oh, yes, this is amazing, right? As they're watching the python attack the hamster and kill it, And so the 9-year-old is sobbing because I would be too.
Yeah.
And yeah, the 4-year-old is just like, this is so amazing. And she's watching the 4-year-old being like, yeah, it's so great. And so the 11-year-old realizes that this was wrong. This isn't okay. And he goes over and is like trying to apologize to the sister, and she doesn't want to hear it, right? Anyway, then she was like, okay, well, let's do movie time, right? So she makes them all get up and go downstairs, right? She pulls out the movie from her bag, puts it in. The 11-year-old, while she's sitting down, because she grabs the 4-year-old, makes him sit next to her. Well, the 11-year-old grabs the bag that she's been wearing this entire time and runs upstairs with it, right? So he dumps everything out so he can sneak through it.
Okay.
And finds her, driver's license that says her name is not Anna, it's Emelie, which this is the dumbest way to spell Emily. It's Emelie.
Yeah, that's way weird. It looks like the French, Emelie.
Yeah, which it kind of makes you wonder if she is French, because later on they're telling in the story, but it doesn't entirely make sense. My friend Wendy made the suggestion of maybe they wanted to put the word lie in it, kind of, and I'm like, that could maybe make sense.
That's dumb.
But if that is, I don't know. But I'm like, that's a good thing to point out. Thank you. But I don't know.
Could be.
At the same time, I was like, but anyway, so if it is spelled that way and it is French, it would kind of make sense, but it makes no sense for the movie. Anyway, so she puts on the movie as the 11-year-old's peeking through all of her stuff and finds that she's got the ammo from the dad's gun, but she leaves the dad's gun in the lockbox in the bedroom, sitting on the bed. Okay. So anyway, so he goes downstairs and they put on the movie's on, and the 4-year-old goes, haha, that's mommy, and the 9-year-old goes, that's not mommy, and then the 4-year-old goes, daddy's naked.
Oh no.
Yeah, so it's a homemade sex movie.
Oh, no.
Is not the mom. Apparently. With the dad and not the mom. So.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and I was like, oh my gosh. And the babysitter's sitting there making them watch this. And the 4-year-old's giggling his head off because he doesn't know what's going on. The 9-year-old is definitely scarred for life. She's trying to watch behind her eyes and everything, because how do you pull your eyes away from something like that,
Yeah.
But she's definitely terrified of what's happening. And the 11-year-old comes downstairs, sees what's going on, turns the movie off really quick and starts yelling that that's private, and throws the remote. And so the babysitter's pissed. She's like, okay, it's bedtime, and makes them all go to bed, right?
Okay, fuck you kids.
Yeah, fuck you kids. And so she makes them all go to bed. But she decides to tell a story to the 4-year-old, right? So she's got him in a rocking chair and all cuddled up, and pulls out one of those composition notebooks that she's very clearly drawn in herself, right? And so she starts telling him this story about how there was a mama bear in her little cubby, and how the mama bear loved her little cubby, loved it, and worked so hard to take care of her little cubby. Well, it starts doing exposition shots of her and her actual baby, and a little infant baby, okay? And they would sleep together on the same sofa. And I wasn't sure if that was just because she couldn't afford a bed, but she clearly had an apartment.
Yeah.
So I don't know why she didn't have a bed, or anyway. So they're sleeping together, and she accidentally pushes the baby against the back of the couch and suffocates it while she's sleeping.
No.
Yeah, so she's pretty devastated, right? Because she just lost her baby. And so she is pretty heartbroken about it. Randomly meets this other guy that she calls what was he? Skinny some kind of animal. I can't remember what animal it was now. I should have written that down. Anyway, and so they try to have a baby, another cubby, right? Mm-hmm. And then she finds out that she can't have babies. The first one was it. She's done now, right? Then she starts talking about how the big mean man wouldn't give her another baby. And I was like, what does that mean? Is that the doctor telling her this? Or is that the state telling her she can't adopt? Or what's happening? Kind of a thing. And I'm like, is it because you're cray-cray you can't adopt? Because you're cray-cray.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. And the other guy, apparently he was even crazier than her. She was talking about how they both have really twisted minds and stuff. And so they decide to that they were going to take a baby, right? They were going to find a new cubby. But for some reason, they got into some trouble, so they needed to escape. And this literally shows them standing around waiting for new passports. So I'm like, so did they come into the country from France? Like, did she move here from France? Why are you telling me this story about you getting into trouble and needing to come here? Like, why is that part of the story? Like,
yeah.
I don't it has nothing to do with who you are.
Does it make sense for the movie?
No, it makes no sense. So I'm like, she literally could have been somebody moving in from a different state and it would have been fine. Yeah. Like, so it just doesn't make any sense as to why we're talking about, like,
how quickly are you fleeing if you have to get a passport?
That you need a passport, right? And so then it shows her, like, talking about how they were going to find a new cubby, but it had to be her cubby. So she's been, like, stalking kids for a while. And it shows this family at the park and her watching them sitting on the swing sets. But it doesn't in any way indicate that it is the family that she's babysitting for right now, right?
Okay.
Like, you don't hear the mom at the park going like, Jacob, Sally, Christopher, we need to go. Nothing like that, right? So how the fuck does she know about this family?
Yeah. And, like, do you see the kids at the playground?
You see kids, but they're not the kids.
Yeah, okay.
Well, but they're also, like, far enough away that I'm not entirely sure if it was them or not, because I can't tell.
Yeah.
I can't tell, right? And so, no idea. But she decides this is the family.
That scared me.
This is the family that she's gonna, like, kidnap a kid from, right?
Right.
And so
Casual decision,
you know. But the 4-year-old is like, I really want the mama bear to find her cubby so she can be happy and smile like that again. And she was like, when did she ever smile in the story? Anyway, whatever. The 4-year-old and he's acting.
Yeah. And
so she was just like, me too. And then kisses his head and decides he's the one, right? Oh, well, the 11-year-old is like, what the fuck?
Oh, they're there?
They're there. Well, they're sitting outside of the room listening. I should have said that. Sorry. Okay. They're sitting outside the room listening because she, like, kicked him out of the room and just wanted to talk to the 4-year-old.
Right.
And so they sneak into the parents' bedroom and find the box with the gun in it, right? And so for some reason they take it back into the sister's room and are talking about it. And then the babysitter comes in and she's like, what are you guys doing? And blah, blah, blah. Well, then the 4-year-old finds the gun is like, I'm going to shoot you guys because
we're playing pretend.
Yeah. And the other two freak the fuck out because, you know.
Because gun.
Because they know they're not supposed to play with the gun because their dad is giving them the gun safety talk, right?
Good.
But the 4-year-old obviously doesn't, you know. And so the babysitter is just like, give me the gun. Give mommy the gun.
Oh,
and I'm
no,
like,
no.
Well, then he pulls the trigger and nothing happens because she took all the bullets, right? And she just gives him this look like, you are the perfect cubby for me. And I'm like, why are you fucking this kid up to, like, make him the perfect cubby for you? So, like, none of this makes sense. Why was she letting them paint on the walls? Why was she letting them destroy things? Why was she, like...
Oh, yeah.
Just, like, why was she showing them the homemade porno of the dad cheating?
Yeah, like, why be so weird? Why not just take the kid?
Exactly. Like, why? Like, it'd be so much easier to just take him and go, right? Just take him. And the babysitter's boyfriend, whoever he is, the creepy guy, is watching the parents at the restaurant as they're talking, right? He keeps texting them, like, they're still at dinner. And she's like, okay, you know. Mm-hmm. And then, out of nowhere, Maggie, their usual babysitter, shows up, like, rings the doorbell and shows up.
But she was doing hot girl shit.
She was doing hot girl shit,
what?
Right? But she had been texting her friend Anna and was like, hey, how's the babysitting gig going? Are the kids behaving for you? Is everything going okay? And Anna's not texting back, right?
Oh, no, because she kidnapped. Oh, boy.
And so Maggie is, shows up because she's like, you know, is my friend okay? Are the kids okay? Because she's a good babysitter.
Yeah.
And the Emelie, fake Anna babysitter, is just like, she got food poisoning or something, so they called me last second, you know, and she goes, oh, well, let me say goodnight to the kids at least. And she goes, no, they're already in bed. And she was like, whatever, they're not in bed. I know these kids. They're not asleep yet, right? And so she goes, okay, fine, I'll go get them. And so she runs upstairs and threatens the kids and is just like, hey, you like your babysitter, right? And they were like, yeah. And she goes, well, that would be really terrible if something bad happened to her.
Oh, my God.
Right? And so she's getting them ready to, like, go down. And the 11-year-old runs over, grabs a note or grabs a piece of paper and writes, help us, right? And then gives it to the 9-year-old sister because apparently it's normal for the 9-year-old to hug the babysitter, right?
Okay.
And tells her, give it to Maggie, right? And so she's 9. She's 9. I can't be too mad, but she is very much just like... stuffing it in her purse.
Here is this very secret note for you.
Yeah. And the babysitter, the bad babysitter is obviously like seeing this happen, right? And so she shoves the kids back inside, and Maggie is like super sus going back into her car because she's like, what's happening here? And she goes and sits down, opens up the piece of paper, and it says help us on it, right?
Yeah.
And just then Emelie gets in the car and smashes her face a couple of times into the steering wheel.
Oh no.
And I'm like, what part of locking your door when you get in your car do you not understand?
Right?
Like,
your neighborhood is not safe enough.
Exactly.
Do it.
Do it. So yeah, she does that. And then she, instead of popping the trunk and putting the babysitter in the trunk, she drags her into the house.
Why?
Across the lawn where there's neighbors that could look out their window at any time and see things.
Well, there's a stupid movie decision.
Right? So she locks her up in the house. Well, she doesn't lock her up. She puts her in a closet. Then she drugs the kids. She comes over and she gives them some juice and says that they need to drink it, right? And the 11-year-old's like, I'm not drinking that. And so she grabs the 9-year-old and starts twisting her arm and is like, drink it. And the 9-year-old's crying at this point, because she's hurt. And so the big brother drinks it because he doesn't want his siblings hurt. It makes the other two pass out, but he runs upstairs and makes himself throw up into his plant so that he,
Nice.
Yeah. And I'm like, super smart, kid, super smart. Let's see. The mom calls home after a minute and is like, oh, I totally forgot to call the babysitter and make sure everything's going okay. So she calls home, and the babysitter's like freaking out because she's like, oh shit, I've only got a few minutes to get out of here, because she's like, yeah, we'll be home soon. We're gonna get a taxi and come home. And she's like, okay, and then texts
boyfriend.
The boyfriend, and is like, they're coming home, I need more time, right? And he's got the dumbest fucking idea of how to get them more time. Anyway, so it just doesn't make any sense. It makes no sense. Okay, so the sitter goes downstairs and shuts off the power to the whole house, right? Okay. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of a smart-ish move, because now the 11-year-old can't, if he's awake, can't call for help or anything, right? Let's see. So then she's got this plastic garbage bag and is stuffing all of the 4-year-old shit in it, right? As much shit as she can carry or put into this bag, she's stuffing into the bag. Oh, the 11-year-old sneaks out of the house because he looks out his window into his backyard and sees that his tree house, the lights are on inside, which means his friend is in the tree house, the one that he called on the radio. And he tried to call the friend on the radio earlier, and the mom was like, hey, he's not doing his homework, so I'm taking his radio away, and he's grounded. And I'm like, okay. So he was obviously trying to call for help, but the mom turns it off, and so he runs outside to go tell the friend, go get me help. Yeah. Okay. And the friend goes, wait, you just left Sally and Christopher in there with her? I'm like, yeah, he's fucking 11. What else is he going to do?
Yeah, he's getting help.
He's getting help. You're the help. Go get help. At no point did he ever run next door and go to the neighbors or anything. He could have at any time. It's not like they were out in the middle of nowhere. They had neighbors. Yeah. Their backyard looked into other people's yards. Anyway, so the friend, instead of going and getting help, stays in the treehouse, and he goes back inside so that he can get his siblings out, right? And so he goes and steals Christopher. The other babysitter, Maggie, wakes up. Okay, yeah. Wakes up, attacks Emelie. Good. And I'm like,
hell yeah.
Yes, points. All of the points of this woman. These aren't her kids.
Yeah.
But she knows they're in danger.
Yeah.
And she dies for him.
Oh.
Yeah, she dies. She
goes,
yeah. And
no.
You hear this loud, thud and a kind of noise. And then she pushes her down the stairs into the basement. Oh. Yeah, and so she's very dead. There's a big pool of blood. If she's not dead, then,
She close.
She close. So then the 11-year-old starts looking for help and stuff, going around trying to find the brother and everything, and bring the brother and the sister outside, right? Well, he hides the little brother in a trash can outside, which is pretty smart. Mm-hmm. Kind of gross, but pretty smart, because I wouldn't think to look in a trash can first thing right away. And then he goes back inside to find the little sister, and she's missing. Obviously, the babysitter got to her, right? So he goes into the basement for some reason. I have no idea why he goes in the basement, but he goes into the basement. And then the babysitter shows, or the bitch babysitter, is just like, I told you to not misbehave or whatever, that, bad things were going to happen and yada yada. And then it tosses this yellow jacket down the laundry chute, which is his friend's jacket. It's covered in blood. And I was like, oh my gosh, did she kill the friend, And so you're like, well, shit, she just like murdered these fucking kids and everything. And you wouldn't put it past her or anything, because she totally was gonna put a pillow over his face.
Oh.
And it flashes back over to the parents and stuff, right? And they're in their taxi driving along for a very awkwardly long time, just them kind of cuddling and being cute together, which is nice to see them kind of cuddling and being cute, but the whole time you're like, you skis bag dad, you skis bag son of a bitch, you know?
Yeah.
And because clearly the wife doesn't know, she only has suspicions, because if I knew and we're trying to make it work out, he would not still have that tape, I promise you that.
Yeah, no.
So he wouldn't have that locked up and keeping that. No, that would be burned in front of him. So it's kind of cute to see them sitting and blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a car crashes into him, right?
Oh,
and
boy.
the whole time I was thinking was that the taxi driver was the boyfriend of the crazy bitch, right?
Okay.
So that's what I thought, was that he had kidnapped them. But no, they had an actual taxi driver.
He drove his car.
He drove his car into them, crashes into them, okay?
Of course.
And I'm like, that's the dumbest fucking idea of all time, right?
What if you died?
He did. So the dad gets out of the car and goes over and sees that the car had like wrecked into them its whole front end was smashed into a stoplight. And so he goes over, and the guy had flown through the windshield onto the ground. And I don't know if he hit a fire extinguisher, but there was a fire extinguisher right there. And he dead. Like, dead, right? So they call the police, and the police show up, and yada, yada. And they're like, oh my gosh, we need to get home. We need to get to the kids. I don't want to be here anymore and stuff. And so, like, finally the cops are like, okay, let's get you home. But you obviously don't have a car, and you're still kind of intoxicated. So they have an officer driving one of them home, right? Well, as they're driving along, the other officers pop the trunk of the dead guy's car, and they find Anna dead in the trunk. So they're just murdering teenagers left and right. Okay?
Wow.
And so they start like, oh my gosh, okay. And they call over the radio to say, hey, officer so-and-so that's taking these parents home, we've got a situation over here. And he's like, what's up? And they're like, well, we found the dead body of a teenager in the car. Her name is Anna whatever. This is the address. And they're like, that's our babysitter. And I'm like, first of all, I don't fucking think they would say that over the radio. People own police scanners.
That's
so,
true.
like, I don't think they would just say something like that. They would just be like, hey, we've got another body. Come back, right? So they tell the officer, hey, this is an emergency. So the officer flips on his lights because he's going to go back to the situation, right? Which I don't know why he would.
Yeah, why do they need him?
He's already doing something, right?
Yeah.
And so he flips on his lights, and the dad starts going, no, we need to get home. We need to get home right now. We have a family emergency. Turn on your lights. Let's go. Blah, 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 blah. And, like, anyway. So the officer is, like, driving him home, okay? Then it flashes back to the brother, and he is going to be doing a switcheroo with Christopher for the other sister, right? Or for the sister, not the other sister, for the sister.
Yeah.
He pushes the trash can out and then runs away. So Emelie, the babysitter, goes over to open the trash can to get him out, opens it up, and a bunch of fireworks go off inside the trash can, which I forgot to mention, the friend that was in the tree house had gotten a bunch of fireworks for some reason. And the whole time he's like, whoa, 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 going off about these fireworks. And I was like, you'd think that he'd have a porno magazine the way he was talking about it, right? And he was just all excited about these fireworks. And so anyway, so he lights the fireworks off inside the trash can, and it hits her right in the face, you know, and so she's like totally stunned for a second, gives the brother enough time to go over, grab the sister, put both the sister and the little brother in the dad's super fancy car, right? In the garage. He then puts on the dad's jumpsuit,
of course,
with the helmet, and opens up the garage door. And the babysitter comes over, and she's just like, get out of the car right now, Jacob, to the older one. And he just kind of looks at her and runs her over as she tries to fire at him and misses, right? Because she's got the gun, shoots at him, right? And misses. He runs her over and then continues driving down the street where they see the police officer, right? And he kind of wrecks the car, but the dad is like, that's my car, right? And so they get out of the car really quick and go running over and see it's their kids. And so they're like, oh my gosh. And then later on, they have all the cops go over to the house, And the friend isn't dead. The friend in the treehouse wasn't dead. He has a bloody bandage around his head, though, in the paramedics van and stuff. Jeez. And you're like, oh, good. She at least doesn't murder that child. Like, yeah. But then they don't find the babysitter. She's not where she got hit and run over, right? Okay. And it shows her, like, bleeding and running down the street, and that's how they end the movie. Okay? What? And I'm like, okay, but then why did you give us all this nonsense about the dad being a cheater and like and
like what is the context for most of this stuff?
No idea. They keep giving you these little sprinkles of things, and I totally understand if it was something along the lines of like knew that the dad had cheated, and they were trying to fix their marriage. Like that would have been a little different as to why they had to go on this date tonight, and it didn't matter who was babysitting because they had to go on this 13-year anniversary date to try to fix their marriage. Like that would be fine,
right?
But she doesn't know. Like, there's no way she knows. She's just suspicious of it. But she knows. Like, it's so, I don't. Anyway. But yeah, that's. Yeah. But I was like, how did they know how to kidnap Anna at the beginning of the movie? Like, how did they know how to kidnap this random
They didn't hear her
bitch?
on the phone?
No. There's no way they could have. There's no way. Because I could barely hear what she was talking about. It was so fucking quiet at the beginning of the movie. So.
That is so. I'm like, why. For the sake of it being easy, why wouldn't you just kidnap an only child?
Right.
Like, why deal with siblings?
Right. Or why did she not, like, be very nice at the very beginning and be like, hey, guys, how about a snack? Drug the snacks. And then kidnap the one kid and just leave.
Yeah.
Because the parents are still clearly just getting to dinner, okay? So there's no way they're just going to turn around and come home within the next, 15-20 minutes that it takes you to drug somebody, right?
Yeah.
And call the boyfriend back and be like, come and get me. But as the getaway driver, why do you wreck the vehicle that you have as your getaway car? Because it's a stolen car. The police were talking about how it was a stolen car. And that's not that much of an importance to the story, but it's a vehicle that you were supposed to get away with a child with. Like, how...
So this is a PSA for wearing seatbelts?
Yes.
Okay.
That and, I don't know, maybe if you're running from the law, don't put yourself in a situation where you can run into the law.
Yeah.
Like, if you got into a car accident, yeah, they're going to have the cops come over. I mean, I know he's cray-cray, but, you'd think he'd be a little less cray-cray. If you were smart enough to know we need passports to get out of the country, you'd think you'd be smart enough to not, ram your vehicle into another vehicle to buy your girlfriend more time to kidnap a child for the two of you.
all the things that you could do.
Yeah.
That's not the one to do.
That's not the one you do.
Because now she can't have a kid or a boyfriend.
Yeah.
And now what? She's going to be worse.
Yeah. She's going to be way worse. Because now what is she going to do? Go try to murder a wife so that she can steal the dad and his kid?
I mean, maybe.
Is that the sequel? Because there better not be a fucking sequel.
Emelie too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, it seemed like an okay premise. So this lady who lost her baby is trying to kidnap this other kid, and you're
I'm sure there's other horror movies about that, for sure.
I'm sure. But,
because bitches be crazy.
Bitches be crazy. But this one was bitch be stupid.
Well, yeah.
So,
what weird ass fantasy was she playing out by having them do all that weird stuff?
I don't know. And I'm like, clearly, your infant died.
Yeah.
Your little tiny baby infant died, okay? That little baby infant wasn't fucked up and trying to pull triggers on you and watching pornos with you and shit. And if they were, then you're...
Yeah.
And it's just... But...
Yeah, the trophy bit, murder your sibling and the hamster and were you just trying to inflict as much trauma onto these children before you take it for your own?
Because now they're just extra traumatized.
Yeah, way fucked up.
She's obviously fucked up and stuff, and so I don't know, I just feel like all of this extra nonsense was for nonsense, and so it just she
filler. For the sake of nothing.
Wasn't going to steal the 11-year-old or the 8-year or the 9-year-old. She wasn't going to take the girl because she was being a raging bitch to her, right there from the beginning.
Yeah.
And
why a 4-year-old?
I don't know.
4-year-olds remember shit.
Right?
4-year-olds can find help.
Yep.
Babies.
Yeah.
Why?
Baby would be so much easier to kidnap.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. So I don't know if it was in the sense of it had been a time period enough where her baby would have been 4, and so she was like, I want a baby that would have been as old as my baby would be now, kind of a thing. But I'm like,
Weird.
That's so weird to me. It's so there's so many other ways I feel like you could kidnap a kid.
Yeah, that seems way too hard.
And this seems way too hard. Like, you have to know who it is that's like...
Why not just make yourself a babysitting Facebook page?
Yeah, and do exactly what she does.
Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty sure there is another scary movie about that where the girl has, like, a babysitting Facebook page and she's actually, like, obsessed with this doctor. It's a whole different story. But, like... But that's what she does, is she has her own page, and so they call her and are like, hey, come babysit.
Yeah.
Like,
and then, like, what? Ugh. Just so much unnecessary stuff. Yeah. Really.
Like, so many extra steps. So many extra steps that didn't need to be a thing.
So we need to remake this movie.
Yeah.
Oh,
but I'm just,
boy.
like, the whole time, though, I was just like, props to the fucking dead babysitter.
Yeah, no kidding.
Because, I mean, she doesn't know, or, like, these aren't her kids.
Yeah.
She's a teenager.
But it seemed like she was pretty well established, you know, like she'd been around the house.
For a while. Yeah. Like, they loved her and stuff. And they kept saying, like, well, why can't Maggie babysit for us? Why can't Maggie babysit? And they're like, because Maggie is doing other things. And they just kept talking about how since she got her braces off, she does hot girl shit now. And, like, they said it like 3 different times of doing weird. Hot girl shit. Yeah. And so...
Those braces, they work wonders.
Yep, I know. And I'm like, that did not work for me.
Where's my hot girl shit?
Where's my hot girl shit? I didn't have hot girl shit.
So really, Maggie is the villain because she stopped babysitting these kids.
Yep, Maggie's the fucking
jeez.
Dies for them, but she's the bitch.
Yeah,
so.
she started it all.
She started it all, yeah.
She is to blame.
I mean, not gonna lie, though, they probably would have kidnapped Maggie, so...
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Know. But I mean, they obviously had to pick the family where, you know, their normal babysitter wouldn't be showing up. So
unless she started her own Facebook page and just was the babysitter.
It's true. It's how they should have done it because it didn't make any sense. Like, how did they know? How did they know?
It's like they wanted to up the body count. Yeah. And so they were like, well, we're going to kill off the babysitter first.
Yeah. And I'm like, and why did you have to kill her? What was the point of killing her? I mean, you could have just kept her locked up in the car. It's not like the car accident killed her. She was clearly already dead before then.
Well, yeah, but then you have a kidnapping on your hands, so then what?
Well, I don't know, because, like, obviously the mom from the very beginning of the movie didn't recognize this random girl sitting on her porch going, bye, Mom.
Yeah.
Like, it was dark. Oh. Like, the porch light wasn't on. But the mom, at the very beginning of the movie, of Anna... was, like, peeking sus out the window, being like, who the fuck is this girl?
She went to Anna's house?
Yeah.
Oh, why did I not connect that?
Oh,
that's
sorry, I should have said that.
No, you're good.
But, like, yeah, because the dad picked her up from Anna's house.
How did she know where Anna lived?
I guess she had to have a driver's license, right? Because, like, if they killed her right away, or they were probably like, where's your house, as they're torturing her, you know, like...
Oh, you know? What the hell?
I don't know. So, like, there's a lot of things that, like, they don't explain shit, but they give you all this nonsense about the dad banging some other chick. So, like...
But, like, why?
But why?
Because he didn't sleep with the babysitter.
No.
He just awkwardly, weirdly kind of flirted.
Yeah. And, like, barely flirted. Like, I mean, I wouldn't have considered that flirting. I would have just been like, can you shut up about
You're a
cars,
really weird dude.
Yeah, like... Yeah, and she just kept giving him these weird eyeballs of like, but like not flirty, but kind of flirty. And I was like, are you going to hit on him or not? Because can we move on, please? Right. Go back to your skinny weirdo boyfriend, who was not skinny, by the way. He was just like this hulking big guy. Anyway, you barely got to see his face. Yeah, and it was just... So, bad movie is bad.
Yeah. Should we have like a rating scale?
Yeah, I give this one a 3. No, I'm
3 out of 10?
I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 10 because the acting was actually pretty okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I very firmly believe that this lady was a crazy babysitter. The parents sucked at acting. Although they were children, they did a fairly decent job.
Nice.
And normally children actors kind of suck, and so they were just kids.
Would you recommend this movie?
No.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely. I'm going to tell you to go watch it because then you can see how terrible it is.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So one-time viewing only.
One-time viewing. Yeah.
And like bring your popcorn because shit sucks.
Because the shit sucks. Yeah. And there's just still like so many things that I'm like, but why did you give me that information but not this information?
Yeah, I was just going to ask like if you had one word to describe this movie, what would it be? But it seems like why is a pretty good one.
Why is a really great word to describe this one.
But why?
Because why though? Like really, I don't understand the feeding the python, the porno movie.
Yeah, like, just all the weird little intricacies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
You're very welcome. I've got, a whole fucking list. So.
And people can find that on Amazon?
Yeah, Amazon.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah,
Amazon
if
is
you
a
have
treasure
Amazon
trove.
Prime, it's free. So.
Of course it is, because if you had to pay to rent that, I would feel bad for you.
Yeah, I would feel bad.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're already paying for Prime, then might as well.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks for sharing that
Yeah.
B-movie gem with us.
You know it.
I'm really excited for next week now.
Yeah, I haven't decided officially which one yet, but it's going to be good.
Yeah.
Because they're all good.
In the worst way.
In the worst way, yep. So, I mean, if they didn't make bad movies, what would
we couldn't appreciate the good ones.
Exactly.
That's how the saying goes, right?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, thanks for listening, if anybody is listening.
Yeah.
So,
see you next time.
see you next time.